We listed July, August last year. We had, it was on the back of 3 or 4 years of development effort building this platform. Had really no revenue at that stage. We launched the proposition into the Australian consumer market in August that year. And really in that we were not much more than a PowerPoint slide at that time. And in the next 8 months, I've really busied myself building out channels to market, growing the revenue. And I think really what you've seen in the last few weeks is better promotion of the story. Like when we met you guys a few weeks ago, people understanding our go-to-market strategy and seeing solidity around that, and then the revenue numbers you see in this slide. The second line is the customer revenue. Think of it as recurring revenue. And now people are appreciating that this business is tangible. So our recurring revenue has gone from nothing 9-10 months ago to 440,000 in the last quarter. The difference between the two lines is in the last quarter tax grants, and the quarter prior it was $700,000 worth of hardware sales into the Philippines. So the combination of all of that, great work from NWR, our IR firm in Melbourne, and BW Equities in Melbourne, who are doing our promotion corporate work, is really been the movement in our share price the last couple of weeks. So a bit about the team. The 3 guys on the left have all got telco backgrounds. John Sims is the former head of BlackBerry sales globally. Crispin Swan's been selling technology into telcos forever. And I have been doing telco retail for 20 odd years. I started in telco with Kerry Stokes with his B Digital business, and now I've got a chain of mobile phone stores. The reason why that's important is parental control today is dominated by software providers. And software has a place, but as everyone knows who's tried to do parental controls, it can be hacked. Kids can delete it. Well, kids know the admin passwords of every home network, more than parents do. So we believe that software in combination with the providers of access, having technology in their gateways, is the really only robust way to solve challenges of parental control. So that's why we've gathered together a team of telco guys really as the primary capability, good at building business models around telcos, with technology as a bit of a subset, and that's how we think we can solve the problem with this, what we call an ecosystem approach. The guy on the right-hand side is very important to us. He joined us in November. He's Rob Smith. He's been selling EduTech, firewall systems into the education sector for 20 odd years as well. I'll talk a lot more about what he's achieved in the very short period of time he's been with us, but he's now a big part of our proposition. So the background is, some of you might not have seen this. In fact, none of you can see it. On the left-hand side is meant to be a video running of an app called Lively. It's the fastest growing app for 9 to 11-year-old girls in Australia. It's made by the same company that, I'll try and click that again. No. Oh, there it is. She's not running, but Lively presents as a series of spaces. You can click on one of these spaces and you will then be literally in the bedroom of any number of these kids. Inside this video, if I can get it to run for you, there's a girl who's in her shower broadcasting herself to thousands of anonymous users. There's another video that we filmed here of a kid filming, broadcasting from the school classroom. And the schools knew that kids were broadcasting students, all hell would break loose. Again, this is the fastest growing app for 9 to 11-year-old girls in the country. We've seen girls as young as 9 in their knickers being asked to take their clothes off while they're brushing their teeth before school. Parents are completely oblivious to these sorts of applications that are being used by our kids, and the kids they explore. They're thinking about socialisation very differently to us. We can't comprehend that they'd want to do this, but this is just natural for kids. And on the right-hand side is one of a number, around about 20 very popular apps in the app stores. There's about 1 million of these downloaded each year, and this looks like a calculator. It actually behaves like a calculator, but if you put in a special calculation, 23 times 23, it's customizable. It opens up, and that's all your secret folders, your sexting pics, your secret messages, anonymous browsing. Some of them have an upskirt feature that allows to do a specific calculation, and it'll take a photo up the skirt of the girl in the bus and hide it without making a sound. I still can't believe that those features are available in Apple App Store. So if you're a parent today and you go to a cyber safety night, you are told by the school, grab your kid's device, check their apps are safe, and check their browsing history. The reality is that's impossible. It doesn't work. For kids as young as 9, they know how to hide their browsing history. If they're 11 or 12-year-old, they've probably got one of these apps. It looks like a health monitor or a calculator, and they might be broadcasting themselves to the world, and you as a parent probably don't even think that's a reality. So how are you possibly equipped to deal with this new world? So the internet's targeting kids' basic instincts. It's kids are naturally devious. That's part of growing up, and the internet's allowing them to do it. So we're the first generation of parents. I often say that first generation of parents dealing with this, and the internet's way ahead of us. And this next headline is a true headline out of the US. Girls dealing with a generation of boys who have been exposed to hardcore pornography from a very young age. I mean, sexual development is very difficult anyway, let alone that. And that's a big part of the reason why I'm involved in this initiative, to be honest. I mean, so all the stats out of the growth of the internet, pretty frightening. The majority of kids have been exposed to bullying. Most kids, literally most kids, don't get enough sleep. 4% of teenage boys are addicted to gambling. Pretty much every senior school kid in private schools in Australia has a TAB sports bet account or equivalent. Nearly every teenage girl has felt pressure to be involved in sexting. Most teenage boys watch porn, and the worrying stat is the one on the bottom right-hand side, which is the porn that boys watch is misogynistic, incredibly aggressive to women. And I've got two beautiful young boys, and that's what drives me, is I want them to be gentlemen. I want them to grow up as good kids. So the problems, if you don't have kids, you may not be aware of it, but these problems are playing out in the classrooms at schools, and they're in the media constantly. Current Affair and Sunrise, you name it, they're covering these sorts of stories. But to be honest, the biggest issue in most people's homes isn't necessarily bullying or sexting. It's just routines. It's getting your kid to sleep. It's getting your kid to study. Getting your kid off, out of that device and to kick the footy. They're the practical challenges in most people's homes, let alone the age-appropriate content and then these more salacious topics. So that's the background. Now, the commercial opportunity is essentially, it's a massive global problem with no clear solution. The industry, as I said before, is dominated by software today. Downloadable software, you'll install NetNanny or something equivalent on PCs and different things on Android and Apple devices and so on. But you can't do that on your smart TV or your game controller. So you end up being an administrator of all these different bits of software, and it's a different, slightly different settings everywhere, and it's really difficult. And so this industry today, which is about $2.5 billion per annum, which is actually pretty small if you think about it. Parks research out of the US suggests that if somebody can solve that administrative challenge of parental control, they suggest it's potentially a $100 billion industry. It's potentially massive. And so when I think about cyber safety as a telco guy, I don't think about it as I want to go up in a head-to-head feature battle against NetNanny on an online shopping site. I don't think we need to do that battle, because that's really not what parents want. They want something that works everywhere. Their biggest complaint isn't you've got the best VPN, filtering or proxying service. What the parents want is it works. It works everywhere, and I don't get hassled by it. I'm not underblocked or overblocked, or it's endorsed by the schools. The parents just want simplicity and reliability, and that isn't a feature war. So that's how I think about it. Massive, untapped global opportunity. People approaching the problem in a wrong way. So we've got a disruptive opportunity. In education, kids are being required to have technology at school for learning. Kids are taking these devices home, and it's causing mayhem at home. Kids are Skyping, sexting, social mediaing, you name it, and parents are just unaware of it. A lot of parents are actually blaming schools for the challenges that have been brought home. Now, with all this technology at schools have naturally and they have a duty of care to protect their kids. Schools have naturally invested very heavily in firewalls and key loggers, and in fact I heard recently there is a school in Australia that's taking screenshots of every 5 or 30 seconds of every Surface Pro in the school, literally taking a copy so that the welfare people are aware of what those kids are doing if they ever need to go back and have a look. And it's pretty phenomenal the amount of effort they go into at these schools. And they do it as a reaction typically to a wealthy mum who's got too much time on her hand or a lot of anxiety, and an issue will explode and the school will invest. Now, schools are really influential. If the school tells you to buy green pens, you buy green pens. If they tell you to get a Surface Pro, you do that. School's biggest technical problem today isn't stuff that happens on their network. It's what happens with personal devices that come into the school grounds. Schools still have a duty of care to protect those kids, even if they're off the school network but on the school grounds. That's their biggest challenge. Now, we want to leverage that power, the influence that the schools have over the parent community to solve that problem of duty of care of personal devices and then extend the influence of schools and the cyber safety choices into the home. And that's really resonating with the education sector in Australia. I'll talk to you more about that in a moment. And the telcos, as I said, we got into this thinking that telcos have to be part of the solution. Technically, it's best if there's multiple layers in parental controls on device and in gateways. But also if you think about carriers who do things in cyber safety today, they typically do it as a regulatory response or a pre-response. So rather than Turnbull hassling Telstra to have parental controls, they say, well, look what we're doing. So Telstra has inline filtering in their mobile network and they have terrible filtering on their fixed network. I shouldn't say that publicly, but they do. And they do these things essentially for PR reasons, government PR or community PR. But having said that, in recent times, the major carrier in most jurisdictions of the world is starting to see family as an important segment. Carriers are trying to get stickiness. They're trying to hold on to their customers. And so having family bundles, as you ought to have heard of, is just one element of that. And now they're starting to think about parental controls in a more holistic way. And that's what's relevant in that conversation is the amount of kids using mobile phones today. In Australia, it's 4.5 million kids with a mobile phone. In the US, it's 50 million kids with a mobile phone. It's a massive segment. And the carriers today literally have no proposition for that segment. And so Telstra's view is that they want to, like Combank's Sabre thing that we all heard of when we were kids, they were trying to have a relationship with their kids. Telstra's view is they need to fight back and win the hearts and minds of kids. They want to have a relationship with those kids from a young age. So that's their driver to start looking at parental controls. And they kicked off a project on this about 8-9 months ago. But the major carriers across the globe have slightly different reasons for wanting to do it. PR, family values, improving data recharge, you name it. But all of them become a target for us because they've all got the similar challenge, which is basically they're a dumb pipe potentially unless they layer services into that ecosystem. So carriers for us are a massive opportunity. They're kind of in the space. We offer them some technology that they can't access otherwise. They have a billing relationship in the developing world, which is really hard to get. So huge opportunity for us. Solve some technical challenges, but a massive source of distribution for us. So against that backdrop, big consumer opportunity, education that have a serious duty of care problem with mobile devices and huge leverage over the consumer, and carriers who are a source of the problem but a source of the solution as well, and big distribution opportunity. We started building this platform about 4 years ago, again, to try and bring the ecosystem of access providers into a policy framework of what we call a policy ecosystem, using application software and gateway software to solve the problem. And that's what I'll now show you. So think of the Family Zone essentially as a cloud-based policy set where if you decide your kid can have access to Facebook between 5 and 6 at night, you should be able to set that policy once and it gets applied everywhere. So we've built a range of what we call enforcement technology. So software you can install on an Android device or an iPad or an iPhone. Software you can install on a PC, Mac, or as an extension in Chromebook. And so this is software. It has the same problems as everyone else's software, but one of the key differences is all the parental control settings in this software is managed out of our cloud. So if any one of those devices is assigned to myself and connected, and the software is running on those devices, it's all being controlled from that one policy setting in the cloud. But then beyond that, we have a router that you can plug into your network at home, or you can plug it into the wall for NBN, and it does the same thing. So if you have none of our technology on the device, but connect that device wirelessly to that router, that same managed experience will apply. So we get to have a personalised parental control experience at home for every device in your home, guest devices, connected TVs, connected fridges, dad's device, whatever. We can provide a personal level of policy for those devices. And then if those devices leave the home into what we call an unsafe network, we can control those as well. We also have technology in firewalls in enterprise environments like schools. And so our applications, the software on our device, again, all controlled through the cloud. It will recognise that I've left my home network and turn itself on. And it will stay on in the bus on the way to school. And then when I get to school, if it detects I'm now on the school network, a Family Zone school network, it will disable and let the school run. Does that make sense? So our technology can kind of mesh and work across those different environments. enabling the software when you need to and disabling it when you can rely on the gateways. Beyond that, though, so we've got this kind of network concept of cyber safety. Beyond that, though, we have a time-based concept as well. So you may choose to set Sundays as school time because you want to irritate your kids. And so if Sunday is your school time, then the school policy sets, so the settings that families owners agree with the school will apply on Sunday, just like your kid being at school. So we have the combination, a really clever combination of network unit-based policy sets and time-based policy sets. And we can also, and it's applicable for senior school kids, we can literally disable our whole technology. So if a parent wants to only comply with the school's edict to have parental controls during school time, that's fine. And as soon as it hits 3 p.m, all our technology can just disable and the kid can go for their life. And then as soon as it hits 8 a.m. the next morning, our technology fires up. Or if they're on the school network controls them. So we have all these different layers of technology that mean that we can protect a kid on the device and in networks, all seamless. No one in the world has dreamt of doing that, and it's live. Like, it's live today. I'll show you a slide in a second. And what's more important is the technology that we've got running in our access point. We've now got running in third-party routers out of Southern California, a company called IgniteNet. Furthermore, we've now got a serious firewall provider out of New Zealand called Linewise, 250 schools, 130,000 students. They've now embraced our ecosystem. They're plugging their firewall into our ecosystem as well. So I don't need to own all this enforcement technology. Really what we are is this cloud policy set. And we're now starting to see, as we always predicted, third parties who are in this sort of space willing to plug into it. And that's really why I've been driving hard for all these partnering deals, is to be able to demonstrate this capability and then get the network effect of other providers coming in. The other aspect that's very innovative about what we do is this cyber expert marketplace. So, you may have heard of Facebook. You may know that it's appropriate for a 14-year-old to use Facebook, but for how long? What's appropriate for a 14-year-old? Is it half an hour a day or 2 hours a day? Or gaming, or those calculator apps. I mean, there's so much complexity in this, not just on and off switches, but how much is appropriate and what sorts of conversations should you have with your kids about these things. So we've built into our platform a marketplace where you can choose somebody that may be working with your school, you've seen in the media, or maybe part of your church group, and you can outsource all that complexity to them. You can pay them $3 a month. They set their own fees. They're independent of us. We take a clip on that, what they charge. But you can literally, I use YSafe, Jordan Foster from YSafe. I pay her $2.95 a month. And everything my kids do, including when they should be going to sleep and how much study time they get, is defined by Jordan. I can change that, I can customise it, but I don't. I quite like the fact that I can say it's Jordan's rules, not mine. The boys don't like it, but I find it pretty easy as a parent to do that. And so things like, if my kid installed that calculator app, I'd get an email from Jordan saying, your child has installed this app, it's inappropriate, we've blocked it. It's quite a personalised experience. No one else in the world has dreamt of bringing experts and education inside a cyber safety product like this. So that means we can go to the market, and this image has been designed for education, and we can sell home cyber safety, protecting every device in a personal way in your home. We can do the similar sort of thing, but in a more advanced way in the school, and then we can traverse those two environments with mobile technology that's on device. So obviously the more access points we have, the more robust we are, but we have technology on the device as well that keep kids safe. And as I said, we can allow the school to take control and exercise their duty of care, be they on the school network or not. And that's something that's very valuable to schools. That's really the vision. And that's it's not really a PowerPoint slide anymore. It's in use by 230,000 families a day. It's installed in 300 schools across Australia and the US, and we've signed distribution deals with massive carriers. These carriers have a cumulative subscriber base of 230 million users. The addressable market within those carriers is 25 million services. So these are real carriers. Telcom is one of them, the sixth biggest mobile carrier in the world with 168 million subscribers. So our channels to market are now taking off, and I'll explain those channels. So our consumer product was launched in August, and the way that works is you'll go to familyzone.com, give us your credit card, pay $5 a month, and that will entitle you to filter, essentially, in the simplistic terms, 3 children. That also entitles you to 6 client licenses, so 6 pieces of software you can install on devices. Now, if you want to protect all the devices in your home, you'll buy on our website a box, our piece of hardware, and that costs $89. That'll arrive in a few days. Plug it into your network, and so that allows you to protect your entire home and devices that leave your home with the same experience. So $89 and $5 a month. Now, if you want a cyber expert on top, you pay a bit more. If you've got a bigger family, you pay a bit more. So we'll market into this base additional products, add-on products, pretty much just a standard SaaS model. Our margins on that $5 a month is quite significant. So $60 a year will cost us about $3 a year in direct cost to provide that service. It's very much a telco model. So that's how we started the business. We started in consumer with these over-the-top approaches, really to prove ourselves and to then get into the telcos and education. So let's talk about education now. We acquired a firewall called Sonar in November last year, plugged it into our platform. That system was being used in about 170, 180 locations in Australia at the time. It was in proof of concept in the US. It's now in 175 locations in Australia and 133 in the US. So we've managed to keep selling that, and we're selling these schools on the promise of this ecosystem. They're loving it. Now, we're getting license fees from those schools today. Typically charge the school between $8,000 and $16,000 a year. But since April, the second week of April, we started going to those schools and say, we don't want license fees anymore. We will give you all of our technology for free. We'll support it. If you've got school-provided devices, we'll put our technology on that for free as well. What we ask you to do is have a policy that any personal device that comes to school has family's own technology on it. And we also ask the school to give us a guarantee of 500 families. So we're turning a $8,000 to $6,000 license fee opportunity into a $30,000 a year community subscription, essentially, with the school underwriting it. So if there's a shortfall calculated quarterly, they top it up. All those commitments that we're signing up today are effective from 1 January next year. And this year we are now starting to deploy the system into the schools, create accounts for families, work with the school's tech vendors to get families' own pre-installed on the Surface Pro or the iPad or whatever that you're getting for the next year. And that model is literally taking off. So again, to be clear, we are solving 3 of the big picture problems of schools. Budget, we're saving them real money. Duty of care on mobile devices, we are now providing them the effective control of mobile devices during school time, be they on the school network or not. And we're providing the same platform at school that parents can use at home. So we're giving them the tool to engage with parents like they've never had before. And so it's practical things like if your kid deletes our app or installs a VPN app to bypass filtering systems or jailbreaks their phone, not only does the parent get notified, but the pastoral care people at school will have all those behavioural alerts available to them. Schools find that just immeasurably beneficial. So it's been transformational, this commercial model and the ability to bring these consumer and enterprise pieces together. The final go-to-market or channel is Telco, and we work with Telcos in 2 ways. We have a white label model, which is our preferred model in Asia, where there are language barriers, basically. And so the carriers in Asia are typically rebranding our service to FamZone, and they bill it, answer the calls, and all we are really is a software provider. So every time an end customer of, say, Telkomsel in Indonesia activates one of our services, like an app or our box, we get a US cents per month in revenue. In the Philippines, it's 80 cents per month. In Indonesia, it'll be slightly less than that. In other markets in Asia, we expect it to be around about the 80 cents US per month per service. We also have a retail model where the carriers can bill for the service, much like Netflix is billed for by Optus, and Optus will ship out the set-top box. So the carriers, we're finding, are initially thinking about launching our proposition as what's called a value-added product. So they add a line item to the bill, but all of them want to ultimately do it as a bundled product. Now, typically carriers work with partners in value-added models, adding an insurance fee or the Netflix fee on top of the service fee, the plan, the tariff. Attachment rates for value-added products are usually between 1% and 5%, depending on the product. Like a Spotify or a Netflix would be 5+. A ringtone might be 1%. We are now working with carriers in Asia and Southern Phone in Australia, and some others will announce shortly, and they're planning to bundle it inside the tariff. So you can literally download the app will register on the carriage network, will start being paid, and there's no more to pay for the customer. So I'd expect attachment rates a lot higher than 5% in those situations. Fixed line offers, where a family bundles $100, rather than paying an extra $5 a month for Family Zone, it's all included in the tariff. Again, I'd expect attachment rates to be a lot higher than 5% in those scenarios. So I think that's where it will go with carriers. All of the carriers we've spoken to want to go down that route. All the carriers we've spoken to, however, want to get live quickly, and so the easiest way for them to get on board is through these value-added models. But you'll see in the next quarter, you'll see us live with bundled models in market, which is really exciting for me. It's the ultimate expression of what we're trying to do. So how are we going? We have, in the consumer segment, 11,000 accounts signed up since August. This month we'll do 2,600 plus, so it's growing. We're not spending any more each month in advertising. It's about $60,000 a month. We're building out our ecosystem of cyber experts. We've got computer troubleshooters, gyms, computers, and others who are now reselling and installing Family Zone for those that need it. Consumers, it's a hard slog for those that have ever done direct response sales, but it's really important for us because you learn about a customer that's not necessarily an anxious buyer. You have to communicate with them well. That's going okay. Education, as I said, we're in over 300 schools, 200,000 students, and we've now got 20 schools mandating it. In fact, we had yesterday Canberra's largest independent school sign up, and they're going to be mandating Family Zone for every single family. 850 families are going to have Family Zone, and the school's going to pay us. They're going to absorb it and include it in the school fees. 850 families paying us $60 a year on a 5-year contract. So the schools are really embracing that model. If anything, as an investor in our business, I'd be wanting us to succeed in consumer, but I'd be looking at this education business really as a book being built of predictable, reliable revenue that will go into the next year. Some of those contracts will start to monetize this year, though, is the kind of one-to-one programs where you have to buy your Surface Pro or your Mac or whatever. Those programs really start in the last quarter of this year for next year. So some of that revenue will start to flow in November, December, but the majority of it will come early next year. And we're expecting big numbers of mandating schools. I won't tell you exactly the numbers, but they're expecting big numbers of mandating schools by the end of the year. And we've done tech deals now with Edunet and Learning with Technologies, two of the biggest suppliers of hardware through schools to parents. A couple more to come this year, so we'll have a massive footprint of, the ability to pre-embed Family Zone on the devices that you have to get for school. That'll all be done in the coming months. And then in Telco, so we're live with PLDT, the fixed arm of Philippines Telecom. We're live with a small ISP in Utah in the US. I like Utah. I think it's a really good natural market for us. We are soon to be live with Smart, so Philippines Telecom's mobile arm. 68 million subscribers in there. I think they're in the many millions of kids with mobile phones. We will be live. Our next major carrier that will be live with us will be Telcomcell. They've got 14 plus million kids with a smart device. That's a value-added model. We have recently announced a deal with the People's Operator. They're a mobile virtual network operator originally out of the UK, but have recently launched in the US, and they're backed by the founder of Wikipedia, which is quite a big coup for us. A lot of other stuff going on in telco. The IgniteNet one is where I was talking about having our technology embedded in third-party routers. That they are sitting as an aggregator between us and 2,000 ISPs in the US. The technology is ready, beta tested. We're just working on the billing interfaces between our platforms. So that should get live in the next few months as well. And what that means is if you're an IgniteNet consumer, so you've got an IgniteNet router in your home, you can talk to your ISP, do a firmware update, and start getting Family Zone services in your home. Or if you're a cafe owner and you want to have filtered internet within your hotspot, again, you can start paying your ISP $8 a month, do a firmware update, and get Family Zone as a hotspot in your cafe. So that's all coming in this year as well through the US. Look, heaps of things going on in telco. One other big thing, which isn't in these slides, which happened in the last week, is a deal with Linewise in New Zealand. They have 11% of the schools in New Zealand providing filtering, and they're now plugging their filtering system into our platform. So if you're a line-wide school in New Zealand and you want to have transparency about what kids are doing on mobile devices, if you want to have red flags about what kids are doing on mobile devices, if you want to be able to protect kids, have duty of care on mobile devices at school, that'll be available to you through Family Zone. And again, Linewise are now selling Family Zone services, well, for the next few months, selling Family Zone services to consumers, $60 a year contracts minimum, and they're essentially acting as a distributor with a commission for us. So that should create revenue this year. I think Telco themselves should create revenue this year, but we've got channels, 3 big channels now, all pretty much firing. Next, so that kind of takes us to where next. So ignoring this chart, what my real focus is at the moment is making sure our services are school grade in Australia, delivering for schools, and then leveraging those into families. I want to make sure that everything that we need to support schools in Australia and the US is built, demonstrable, working, getting good experiences, and really serving the needs of the school community this year. And then we need to be taking that model into the US by the end of this quarter, certainly by the end of the year. And so in the US, which takes me to the US, we're not planning on landing AT&T in the short term. The US could be a graveyard for us if we're not disciplined. And so what our plan there is we've got 133 schools that'll grow. We want to roll out our school community. We want to get some cyber experts. We've got 5 there already. We've got 1 ISP, 1 MVNO, a couple more would be nice. And just bring that all together and demonstrate the breadth of this capability, and then look at financing models in the US, be it a franchise model, or, an equity type participation of some other party. But I think the US, and in fact most markets globally, will need to chunk off the business and provide local capital and local executives the ability to monetize that region. We'll see that, I think, evolve out of what we do in the US at the end of this year. Beyond that, we've got big carriers, Telcom, Smart, another that's coming in Asia, which we will be launching in the next 6 months, and they're really important for us. I don't think we've got enough bandwidth to do any more than that with Telcos. We've got pre-sales work happening in the background, but implementations, these are massive projects. And then the IgniteNet thing and the Linewise thing in New Zealand, they're really important for us. We will deliver them this next 3 to 6 months, and they're important for us, again, because they demonstrate the willingness of third-party providers of connectivity to plug into our ecosystem. So a lot of what I've done, as you're probably alluding to, in the last 6 months has been about being able to demonstrate the willingness of third parties to plug into this ecosystem. And that's now, I think, starting to wake up the marketplace, not just the investors, but the telco markets as well, which is really what we're about.